Hello everyone. Today we will discuss about special organelle that is present in the cell. So what are the special organelle that is present in the cell? Look at the cell. In the cell there are many organelles. For example, some nucleus are present, and from the nucleus the ER is present, and then the Golgi are present, and then some ribosomes are present here. The ribosome present in the cytosol is called as the cytoplasmic ribosome, and some ribosome are also present on the rough endoplasmic reticulum, or that's why it is called as the rough endoplasmic reticulum, because in the special part of the endoplasmic reticulum here. So here some ribosomes are also present. So these ribosomes are called as the membrane bound ribosome, or which membrane? That is the ER membrane. So this is called as the membrane bound ribosome. This is the ribosome. Some are called as the lysosome are also present. Some vacuoles are also present. Peroxisome. There are the many different organelles are present inside the cell. So what are the special organelles? So special organelles means, for example, a vacuole. A vacuole contains single membrane bound organelle, or it is called as a single membrane bound organelle. Why it is called as a single membrane bound organelle? Because let's suppose this is the vacuole and it is surrounded by only one plasma membrane or the cell membrane. This is the cell membrane. So it is surrounded by the single cell membrane. But some organelles are also present which is surrounded by the two membranes. For example, the mitochondria. The mitochondria has the two membrane. That means one membrane is called as the outer membrane and another is called as the inner membrane. That means it is surrounded by the two membrane or the two plasma membrane. So that's why the mitochondria is also called as the double membrane bound organelle. Double membrane bound organelle. So besides the mitochondria, one is the mitochondria, the chloroplast of the cell is also a double membrane bound organelle. That means in the chloroplast also they have two membranes. One is the outer membrane, another is the inner membrane, and one is the nucleus. So that means in the nucleus also two membranes are present. So that means these three structures, that means mitochondria, chloroplast, nucleus. So they are the different organelles or the special organelles. Why? Because these three have two membranes that are present outside the organelle. So that's why these mitochondria, chloroplast and the nucleus, they are called as the double membrane bound organelle, and all other organelles, for example ER, Golgi, lysosome, vacuole, so they all are the single membrane bound organelle. So today we will discuss about some double membrane bound organelles. So first come to a very special structure or a special organelle, that is called as the mitochondria. Now this is the mitochondria structure. So mitochondria, it is a plural term. So that means if many mitochondria are present, then it is called as the mitochondria. There is no mitochondria. There is no term about the mitochondria, because mitochondria is itself, it is a plural. So if single mitochondria is taken, then it is called as mitochondrion. So mitochondrion is a singular term. That means a single mitochondria is called as the mitochondrion, while more than one mitochondrion are present, and then it is called as the mitochondria. Okay. So now come to about some history. That means who discovered the mitochondria. So Benda, Benda, Benda in 1898, he discovered the mitochondria and they coined the term the mitochondria. This term was coined by the Benda. And mitochondria is sometimes it is also called as the parabasal bodies, or it is also called as the chondrisome, or sometimes it is also called as the plasmosome. So there are the different names of the mitochondria. That means the parabasal bodies and the chondrisome or the plasmosome. So that means they are also the mitochondria. That means they are the different terms of the mitochondria we used. But mostly we use the term mitochondria. So the mitochondria is present in all the cells except prokaryote and mature RBC. That means the prokaryotes and the mature RBC, they don't have the mitochondria structure or the mitochondria. Please note that it is very important and it is most usual NEET question. That means in the RBC which structure is present or which organelles are present. So always the mature RBC is absent in the RBC. It is very many times it is asked in the NEET exam that which organelles lack in the RBC, and the answer will be the mature RBC. And beside the mature RBC, prokaryotes also, they don't have this mitochondria structure. So if we go to the structure or the shape is sausage or cylindrical. The sausage it looks like this. It is a stuffed meat structure. So the mitochondria, look at the structure. It looks like exactly the sausage or the cylindrical shape of the mitochondria. So the number, if we look about the number of the mitochondria, it varies based on the different types of the physiological activities by the different types of the cell. For example, one algae is present that is called the microsterias. It is a algae and it contains only one mitochondria. That means a single mitochondria is present in the microsterias, that is the algae. For example, in the human, the liver cell contains nearly 500 mitochondria, while the kidney contains 500 to 1000 mitochondria. So the number varies according to the physiological activities by the cell. So if we look at the diameter, so this is the length, this is the diameter. So the diameter is 0.2 to 1 micrometer. Micrometer means 1 micrometer is equal to 10 to the power minus 6 meter. So the diameter is 0.2 to 1 micrometer and the length is 1 to 4.1 micrometer. This is the length and this is the diameter of the mitochondria. And the mitochondria, it is not visible easily in the compound microscope. That means the mitochondria is seen in the higher magnification, That means in the compound microscope, as it is present in the laboratory, in the compound microscope it is not seen. It is seen only in the higher magnification. And the mitochondria is also called as the semi-autonomous organelle. Semi-autonomous organelle. Why it is called as the semi-autonomous organelle? It is very, very important. Why it is called as the semi-autonomous organelle? So what is the difference between the autonomous organelle? What is the semi-autonomous? Semi means not fully, that is called as the semi. Autonomous means it doesn't depend on other cells. So that means, look at the structure of the mitochondria. It contains a special structure here like this, and this structure is called as the DNA. The DNA. That means the mitochondria also contains a DNA. That means, for example, the ER. ER doesn't have any DNA structure. For example, the Golgi. Golgi have no DNA, but the mitochondria has a DNA structure. That means, if in the cell, let's say it is the nucleus. In the nucleus, a DNA is present. How many DNA? 46 or 23 pairs DNA are present. So in the, let's say this is the mitochondria. The mitochondria also contains a DNA, but this DNA is different from the DNA present in the nucleus. What is the difference? So the DNA present in the mitochondria is circular one, circular and double stranded. Look, it means it looks like this. It is a double stranded. This is the one strand, this is the another strand, and it is the circular. But in the nucleus, the DNA is linear and double stranded. That means in the nucleus, the DNA is looks like this. That means it is the linear and double stranded. While in the mitochondria, the DNA is circular and the double stranded, and single DNA means one DNA is present in the mitochondria. So because of the presence of the DNA, and along with that, some ribosomes are also present. So this is the ribosome. So that means the ribosome is present, and the ribosome helps in the synthesis of the protein. That means the DNA is present, the ribosome is present. So that means this mitochondria also can synthesize its own protein. That means in the other cell, for example, this is the ER. The ER forms the protein, and this protein goes to either to the lysosome or to the peroxisome or to the vacuole. So all the proteins that are required in the different organelles, that are synthesized only in the ER. But it is the mitochondria. The mitochondria contains the DNA, and it synthesizes its own protein. That means it does not depend upon the ER for the protein part. So that's why it is called the semi-autonomous. It is not fully autonomous. Why it is fully autonomous? Because it contains only the ribosome and the DNA. But all means besides the protein, all other compounds or the other molecules, and for this it depends upon the other organelles. So that's why it is called the semi-autonomous organelles. Okay. So now look at the division. That means, let's say this is the mitochondria. This is the mitochondria. How it divides or how it doubles? So it divides by a binary fission. Binary fission. That means from one it forms to two same like structure or same mitochondrial like structure. So that means always important that mitochondria divides by the binary fission. So now look at the structure of the organelle or the structure of the mitochondria. Look at the structure of the mitochondria. This is the structure of the mitochondria. And the mitochondria is the double membrane bound structure. That means one is called as the outer membrane. So this is the outer membrane. So another layer is called as the, here it is called as the inner membrane. The outer membrane is smooth, that means it is present like straight, but the inner membrane, it forms a infolding or it moves inside it, that is called as the infolding, and this infolding structure is called as crista. Crista. Please important, the crista is the singular term, singular. If more than one crista if we say, then it is called as the cristae, and the cristae is the plural term. Okay, so what is the crista? Crista is the simply the infolded structure of the inner membrane. Look at this structure. So this is the inner membrane, the infolded structure. This is called as the cristae. This is called as the cristae. This is called as the cristae. So why the cristae is important? Because inside the cristae, or the cristae provides the surface area, or it increases the surface area. What is the surface area? Look this structure. Let's suppose this inner membrane, if it will goes like this, so that means this much of distance covers, but when it infolds inside it, or when it goes to the inside, the distance is from here to here, that means nearly 3 times more than that. So that's why the infolding of the crista, it increases the surface area. So this is the outer membrane, this is the inner membrane, and the infolding part is called as the crista. So this middle part, that means between the outer membrane and the inner membrane, this space or this space, and this space is called as the perimitochondrial space. Perimitochondrial space. So this is the outer membrane, this is the inner membrane, this is the crista, and the difference of the space between the outer and the inner membrane is called as the perimitochondrial space, and the inside it, here this part, is called as the matrix. Okay, so that means here it is the outer membrane, this is the inner membrane, this is the cristae part, and the space between the outer and the inner, this structure is called as the perimitochondrial space, and the inside it, here this part, this inside part is called as the matrix. Okay, this is very, very important. So now come to the crista part. So the crista, or the inside part, let's suppose this is the outer membrane, this is the inner membrane. So outer membrane contains the many enzymes of the proteins, and the inner membranes also contains the many enzymes. But in the inner membrane, the important enzymes are present in the inner membrane on the surface of this inner surface. So this is called as the crista, and it contains, look at the structure, these are called as the respiratory enzymes. What is the respiratory enzyme, or what is the function of the respiratory enzymes? For example, it actually, the respiratory enzyme, it forms the energy, or it creates the energy, or it creates or generates the ATP. How the ATP is formed? By the oxidation of carbohydrate and fat. What is the oxidation of carbohydrate? What is the fat? Look at the structure. For example, a glucose is present. Okay, the glucose is converted to pyruvic acid, or the pyruvate, and this process is called as the glycolysis. Always please remember that this glycolysis always it occurs in the cytoplasm. Okay, so in the cytoplasm the pyruvate is formed, and once the pyruvate is formed, it goes to the Krebs cycle. Krebs cycle, and the Krebs cycle occurs in the matrix of mitochondria. So that means one glucose is converted to 2 pyruvate, and now this pyruvate enters into the matrix part, that means the inside here, the inside part, and in the matrix the Krebs cycle occurs. So after entering this pyruvate into the mitochondria, so now in the membrane there are many respiratory enzymes are present, and these respiratory enzymes creates or forms the ATP or adenosine triphosphate. So ATP by the oxidation of this carbohydrate, that means glucose, fructose, these are the many carbohydrates. So it forms the ATP. So that's why the mitochondria is also called as the powerhouse of cell, because it creates or it generates the energy in the form of the ATP. So look at the structure. What are the respiratory enzymes? Let's suppose this structure, if I will zoom this, then it looks like this structure. That means this is the crista, and the crista different, this green structure are present, and they are called as the respiratory enzyme, which helps in the ATP formation. And along with this green structure, a yellow structure is present, and it is a very important structure. And if I zoom this, it looks like this, and this is called as the oxygen. Or this is also called as the F0, F1 particle, or it is also called as the elementary particle. So why it is called as the oxygen, or the F0, F1 particle, or the elementary particle? So F0, F1, that means this top structure, this is called as the base, or it is called as the F0 part, and this round like structure, the head part, is called as the F1. So that's why it is called as the F0, F1 particle, or because a stalk is present, it is also called as a stalked particle. So what is the role of this oxygen? Because actually there are different types of the respiratory enzyme, and this oxygen is also a one type of respiratory enzyme, but this oxygen actually it forms the ATP. That means the respiratory enzyme forms the ATP, But out of all the respiratory enzyme, actually at the end, the oxygen forms the ATP. All other respiratory enzyme helps in the generation of the ATP, but the oxygen part, it forms or it generates the ATP. So that's why the oxygen or F0, F1 particle is very important, because it creates or generates the ATP, and that's why the mitochondria is also called as the powerhouse of the cell. So because this oxygen or the oxygen, it also forms the ATP, and the ATP is formed with the, let's suppose this is a F0, F1 particle and the oxygen is present. So it generates the ATP. So now enzyme is present that is called as ATP synthase. So what is the role of the synthase? So the role of the ATP synthase means the ATP generates. That means this enzyme generates the ATP. So now the oxygen exactly it has the same role like the ATP synthase. So that means in the NEET exam it is also asked that which enzyme resembles the oxygen, and the answer will be the ATP synthase, because the role of the ATP synthase is to generate the ATP. The role of the oxygen is also the generation of the ATP. So that's why the role of the oxygen resembles the enzyme, the ATP synthase. Okay, so this is all about the mitochondria structure. So now come to the plastid. Come to the structure plastid. The plastid is also a double membrane bound organelle. So that means it contains two membranes. So here that means one is called as the outer membrane and another is called as the inner membrane. Okay, so that's why the plastid is also called as the double membrane bound structure. And the plastid, it can be easily visible in the compound microscope. In the compound microscope, it can be observed easily, the plastid structure. And the plastid structure, it contains specific pigment, and this pigment provides different color. So because of the providing this different color, the plastid are naming according to the color of the pigment. So the plastid are three types of the plastid are present. One is called as the chloroplast. What is the chloroplast? Another is the chromoplast, and third one is also called as the leucoplast. So what is the chloroplast? The chloro means the green. So that means it provides the green color to the obviously the plant. That means the plant contains the plastid. In the animal, they don't have the plastid structure. So green color, it provides the green color. The chromoplast means it provides the different color. Different color means the color other than the green. For example, the red, orange, different types of the colors are present. And the leucoplast is the colorless plastid. So according to on the basis of the color, the plastid are divided into three parts: chloroplast, chromoplast, leucoplast. Chloroplast provides the green color, chromoplast provides different color, and leucoplast it is a colorless plastid. So now come to the first part, that is the chloroplast. First one, that is the chloroplast. The chloroplast found in the green plant, obviously, and in the green plant the mesophyll cell contains the chloroplast. So the chloroplast structure, the shape is the lens-like structure. So lens means in our eye, the lens looks like this. So here also the chloroplast also it looks like this. Or you can be say the oval shape. For example, in some ribbon-like structure are also present. Ribbon-like structure. Ribbon-like means in the spirogyra. In the spirogyra, the structure is like this. That means like a ribbon-like chloroplast is present. So different types of the shape is varies. Maximum is lens of the oval shape, and some are discoid or ribbon-like structure are present. So if we look at the number, so the number actually it varies. For example, in the chlamydomonas, the number is 1. But in the green algae, it is 20 to 40. 20 to 40 per cell. That means one cell contains 20 to 40 plastids or the chloroplast in the green algae. In the plant, there are many, more than 20 or 40 chloroplast in the plant. So the plastid is also called as the semi-autonomous organelle. Why it is called as a semi-autonomous organelle? Because it contains a DNA. Look at this structure. So this DNA is circular and the double stranded. So that means in the nucleus, the chromosome is the linear double stranded, while the DNA present in the chloroplast is double stranded but circular and the single. That means one circular double stranded DNA is present. Like in the mitochondria also contains single circular double stranded DNA structure is present. And according to that, and beside that, this structure like that are present, and this structure is called as the ribosome, and this ribosome is called as cytoplasmic ribosome. So what is the cytoplasmic ribosome? Look at the structure. Let's say this is the nucleus, and from the nucleus the ER is present. So in the ER or the rough endoplasmic reticulum, some ribosomes are also present, and some ribosomes are also present in the cytoplasm. So the ribosomes that are present on the membrane of the ER, so they are called as the membrane bound ribosome. And the ribosome present in the cytosol is called as the cytoplasmic ribosome. So that means because the ER is not present in the chloroplast, so that's why only the cytoplasmic ribosome is present in the chloroplast. So because the presence of the DNA in the ribosome, so it can synthesize its own protein. So that means it does not depend upon the other organelles for the protein part. So that's why it is called as a semi-autonomous organelle. but beside the protein, other molecules, and for other molecules, this cell depends upon the other organelles. So only for the protein it is independent, and that's why it is called as the semi-autonomous. Semi means not fully, so that is called as the semi-autonomous organelle. Okay. So now look at the structure of the, come to the structure of chloroplast. So the chloroplast is the double membrane structure. That means this, the outer is called as the outer membrane and the inner part is called as the inner membrane, because of the presence of the two membrane, that means outer and the inner, that means the two membranes are present. That's why the plastid are also called as the double membrane bound structure. And now look at the structure. This structure, that means this is a space. The space between outer and the inner membrane is called as the intermembrane space. Okay. So now come to this structure. This inside it is called as the matrix. That means inside the inner membrane, all the structure is called as the matrix. So in the matrix, there are the different types of the structure is present. One is called as the grana, one is called as the thylakoid, one is called as the stroma. So what are the different types of this structure? So what is the grana? Look at this structure. This whole structure is called as the grana. And again, grana is the plural term. The singular term is granum. Okay. So this is the grana. So what is the thylakoid? Look at the structure of the grana. So it is, there are many stacked particles present, and each one is called as the thylakoid. So that means the different or many thylakoids, they combine together to form the grana. So this is the thylakoid. What is the stroma? Stroma is the liquid part. Inside it, the gray part is called as the stroma. Okay. So now clear what is the grana, what is the thylakoid, what is the stroma. So grana means the granum. This is the one granum. This is the one granum. All total are called as the grana. That is the plural term. So in the grana, it is formed by the many thylakoid structure, and the liquid part is called as the stroma. So now look at the structure. This grana is joined by a structure. Here look like this structure. Here this structure. Here this structure. So the linking structure which links different grana are called as stroma lamellae. Stroma lamellae. Okay. So this is all about the different types of the structure. So now come to the grana part. What is the function of the grana? What is the function of grana? So when from the sunlight or the sun, the light comes to the, let's suppose, leaf. There are many in the leaf, there are many cells, and inside the cell there are many organelles. So these organelles, one is the called as the chloroplast, and the chloroplast, the granum, actually this granum or the grana, it actually absorbs the sunlight. only the grana of the cell of the plant absorbs the sunlight and it performs the most importantly photosynthesis. The photosynthesis occurs actually in the chloroplast, and in the chloroplast actually the grana part, it forms the photosynthesis. So because of this, the grana is also called as the site of light reaction. Why it is called as the site of light reaction? That means in the presence of the light, some reactions are obviously present, and that is called as the photosynthesis. So that's why most importantly the grana is called as the site of the light reaction. That means it performs the photosynthesis. So now come to the stroma. What is the function of the stroma, or the watery part or the liquid part? So this is the stroma, or the stroma is the watery part. Obviously it contains some enzyme, and that enzymes forms the carbohydrate and protein. Okay, how the protein is formed? Because on the help of this double stranded circular DNA along with ribosome, and this formation of the carbohydrate and the protein, it forms in the light, in the dark, that means in the night. So that's why the stroma is also called as the site of dark reaction. So site of the light reaction is the grana part, and the stroma, or the liquid part, is called as the site of dark reaction. So this is all about the chloroplast. So now come to again another structure or another plastid, that is called as the second part, that is the chromoplast. What is the chromoplast? That means it provides different types of the color. For example, there are many types of the chloroplast. For example, the carotene. Okay, so the carotene, other is the xanthophyll. So the carotene provides the orange color, and the carotene is present in the carrot. So that's why the name is the carotene, and it comes from the carrot. Actually, the color of the carrot is also the orange, and this orange color of the carrot is due to the carotene, because the carotene is the chromoplast which provides the color. So like that in the xanthophyll, it is the yellow color. So it is mainly present in the young leaves, and besides the young leaf, many vegetables, they also contain the xanthophyll like plasmid. So this is the chromoplast, and the third one is called as the leucoplast. So leucoplast means it is a colorless, that means it does not provide any color to the plant. So what is the function of the leucoplast? It helps in the storage. So it stores many molecules. For example, there are the many types of the leucoplast, and on the basis of the storage item, the leucoplast are divided into many parts. One is called as the amyloplast. So the amyloplast, it stores the starch, which is the carbohydrate. Okay, so the leucoplast, which stores the carbohydrate or the starch is called as the amyloplast. Another is called as the elaioplast. The elaioplast, it stores the oil or fat, oil and fat. The elaioplast, it stores the oil and the fat. And another is the eleuroplast. Eleuroplast, and it stores the protein. So different types of the leucoplast are present, which stores different types of the molecule. Some contain the starch, it is called amyloplast. Some stores the oil and the fat, and it is called the elaioplast. And some contains the protein, and it is called the eleuroplast. So different types of the leucoplast are present, and this is all about the plastid, that means the chloroplast, chromoplast, and the leucoplast. So if you like the video, please like and subscribe my video. Thank you.